Hey everybody, this is the RoundTable Jams. I am your host, Jared Guth, and the premise behind this whole thing is to sit around a round table and hear some jams, talk music with some of today's most exciting musicians. With me always is Larry Perez on the buttons in the back. Is that what you're doing?
I am punching buttons and making friends and babies.
Nice.
Right.
Okay, well, I mean, all those things are great. But today we have a very special guest with us, an exciting guitar player, an amazing blues singer-songwriter, and I really appreciate you coming all the way from KC to KC for this. And I'm excited to have you on. I've been ingesting your music, but today we have blues musician, rock musician, all kinds of musical influences, Brandon Miller.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I've, like I said, I've been just ingesting myself with your music and listening to all the things that are going on, and it sounds like you have a ton of different influences kind of back behind you.
Yeah, you know, even to this point, I'm, listening to as much music as I can, as many options and different music, to always just kind of further that. But I started out at a young age. Listening to my dad's record collection.
Oh yeah.
And that would consist of, mainly classic rock stuff, and it would be Led Zeppelin, Tom Petty, Aerosmith, Rush. He was a big prog rock fan, so with Rush, you'd have Yes and Genesis and all those bands. So that's what I really grew up on, and hearing Zeppelin for the first time and seeing Jimmy Page in those DVDs and stuff, it was like I wanna do what that guy's doing.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't? But so it was Jimmy Page that was the one that turned me on to the electric guitar, and my parents got me my first guitar for Christmas when I was 7.
7 years old.
7 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think it was a bit of I wanted a guitar, and then also to keep the peace in the family, because my older brother played a little bit of guitar.
Okay.
And as siblings are, you gotta, this is my stuff and don't touch it. And
Right.
That's your stuff and only touch your stuff. And I would sneak into his bedroom and pick up the guitar and strum around on it, beat on it, whatever, trying to figure out noises and stuff. And then he'd find out that I played his guitar and beat me up, and
Yeah, of course.
every family fight started that way. So they got me a guitar, and just started playing all the time. And I'd learned by ear, starting out. Took a few lessons here and there from different people, and but yeah, I just started playing along to those records and albums, and eventually got into middle school, where I joined the school band and played trombone, and then that taught me how to read music.
Oh, that's great.
And which is huge. And at the time, I had no idea what I was doing, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm played trombone, I read this music, it's the same as guitar. I was trying to put it together. Sure. And then down the road somebody was like, that's treble clef and bass clef, and that's completely different. And I was like, well, okay. I'm just a guitar player, so, we shouldn't know any better.
Right.
But yeah, so
that kind of gives you a little bit of a leg up, though, like knowing how to read music, because most guitar players that I've come across and talked to don't know how to read music.
Yeah.
They've learned how to play by ear, which is great. It's absolutely fantastic. That's a great way to go. But you put music in front of them and it's going to shut them down. Mm-hmm. I think there's some jokes about that too. Like,
yeah.
How do you get a lead guitar player to shut up? Put some sheet music in front of them.
Yeah. Works every time. So it was, it was good to have that, musical education background, reading music, but just having a different mindset behind it and a different viewpoint when listening to music and playing music, and playing with a group and with an ensemble, and having that the one goal in mind is to sound together as one sound instead of certain things sticking out. So that really helped when I started playing with bands, later on in my music career.
Yeah. So so you start playing guitar at 7, and when do you get to actually start playing out?
I was 13 when I first started playing out. There was a good friend down in Gardner where I grew up. His name was Terry Adams, and he came into my parents' sign shop at the time down there and was ordering some signs for his business. And during the summer, I would come into town because we lived out in the country, so I would come into town, hang out with my friends, but I'd just play guitar all day. And he heard me through the back room or whatever and playing guitar, and
Right.
he was like, "Oh, well, I play in a band. I play drums in a band and sing, and they do this open jam night at Jerry's Bait Shop in Lenexa every Wednesday, which has been going on. Last week they just celebrated 18 years, I believe.
18 years of an open mic jam.
Yeah, and
That's incredible.
It's a rock jam.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they do a lot of blues and jazz, and they're very versatile. But so the first time I went to Jerry's, I was 13, and a buddy and I from school went, and we were really big Rush fans at the time, and none of our friends had any idea what we were playing.
Right.
They were like, Brandon and Josh, those are those nerds that are, playing whatever the band called Rush is. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of band name is that? But we thought it was really cool. And so we went to Jerry's and played 2112 and Spirit of the Radio.
Oh, wow.
And we showed up and we were like, no, we play in the basement. And so we don't need a bass player or a singer. We'll just get up and play. And
Yeah.
turns out that Scotty McBee, who is one of the original hosts and founders of the jam, is also a huge Rush fan.
Right.
So he's like, oh, well, I can play bass and I'll try to sing it. Why not? So fast forward, a few years later, and we're still very good friends. And anytime I'm in town, I try to go out to the jam and support that. So
How did that go over with him on the bass?
it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, kind of like proud that the younger generation and next generations of musicians still appreciate that music and want to
Right.
play that music. So we did that, and then that led to, just meeting people and starting to see that networking and relationships,
Yeah.
and how important those are. And that led to just kind of playing right out of the gate. I started picking up gigs, and people would call me, and, I kind of started just doing cover band gigs around town, and you learn those kind of staple songs that, most bands play. And I was gigging, almost every week from then on out.
Wow.
So
Yeah. And how much are you gigging now?
it's probably upwards of 150 shows, 150 to 200 shows a year, somewhere in that realm. And pretty much all of those are on the road.
Wow.
Touring. We only play in town between, a couple bands. It's maybe 5 or 6 times a year is as much as we play in Kansas City and the surrounding areas. So we're on the road a lot.
And you just recently got back from being on the road?
Yeah.
And how long was that tour?
We did about a 10-day run with Danielle Nicole, who I played with full time. And we were out on the West Coast for about 10 days, kind of starting in Salt Lake and then wrapping over to the Bay Area and Tahoe, down to LA and Phoenix, and just kind of doing a southwest corner of the tour. We usually do an entire West Coast run, starting in Seattle and going all the way down. But you got to do that over, 3 weeks, and it's a ton of driving. And so we decided to split it up this time, and we really liked it.
Oh, yeah. Because you were talking, we talked a little bit before this, but you mentioned that you also played a little bit in Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because that just sounded really cool when you were talking about it, and it seems like they really appreciate the music that you brought.
Yeah. We in Norway, we were there in, it would have been October, and we did quite a bit of Europe stuff last year, and we were in Norway and we did the Norwegian blues cruise, and then a couple club shows, and then to end that tour, we flew to an island called Svalbard, and it is in northern Norway, in the Arctic Circle, and considered to be the North Pole. It's the northernmost inhabited place in the world, and we played what was called the Dark Season Blues Festival, where they celebrate the last sunset of the year, and the last sunset takes place about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
The sun goes down and it doesn't come back up until March or April, and so it just kind of, it's dark most of the time, and the brightest it ever gets is, it looks like it's right before sunrise, and the mountains are here and the sun comes about here, and then that's it. And that's all you get for the next 4 or 5 months.
Oh.
But it was amazing. It's one of those places that it's special, and you're never sure if you're going to ever get back there.
Right.
So you do as much as you can while you're there, and you talk to the people and learn about their culture and why they live there, whether it's their own personal choice or they're there for work. And, there's a lot of scientific research that goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of history as well with the coal mining up there. And it was taken over by Germany in World War II, and they bombed a bunch of the coal mines. So they, are no longer in use now.
Right.
But it's funny because it's one of those places where there are more polar bears there than people.
Oh,
which is scary, but as long as you stay in the town, you'll be fine.
yeah.
But yeah, it was really special, and they had 3 or 4 different clubs in the town and a small theater, and people come from all over the world for this festival, and it's
Right.
Limited tickets, limited housing for the week, and it's very special, and I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And we were lucky. One of the nights it was clear out, and we got to see the Northern Lights. And the funny thing about the Northern Lights there is that you're so far north that you actually have to look south to see the Northern Lights.
Oh, wow.
So it was very unique, and one of my favorite experiences that I've got to see on
It was
the road.
kind of probably one of those bucket list things that you didn't realize was going to be a bucket list thing.
Yeah. And it was special because the promoter of the festival was like, it doesn't matter if you're in your hotel room or eating dinner or in the middle of a song, like if anybody sees the Northern Lights, everybody goes outside. No matter how many times you've seen them, they're different every time, and it's special every time. So we happen to be
down.
Yeah, everything shuts down for a few minutes, because you don't know if they could last 5 minutes or an hour. And we happened to be hanging out at the hotel, getting ready to go out for dinner, and we got a text that, it was like Northern Lights alert. And so everybody just runs outside. It's freezing cold. I don't think I even had a jacket on at the time. I was so excited.
You just hightailed it out there.
Yeah. It was like, it doesn't matter. And then 5 minutes, you're like, all right, I need to go.
Yeah. Man, that's really impressive. I love hearing about that story. It just sounds really special, and like one of those times that you're on the road that, and I'm sure there's a lot of special moments on the road, but something like that is just, like you said, kind of a once in a lifetime thing, unless you go back. Then it's twice in a lifetime.
Well, nothing's guaranteed.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I just think it's really cool that they take the Northern Lights so seriously there that they just shut down everything and say, you're going out no matter what.
Yeah.
And to check it out, because, that's something that they could probably get used to, but they realize how special that is. So
yeah,
man,
definitely.
I don't know, kind of envious of that story there. I'm gonna have to make my way up to Norway. I think
you definitely should.
So you've played a lot of shows, obviously, playing all the time, and you've played with some pretty big names in blues and rock world. Tell me a little bit about that, because I think you mentioned that you'd played some stuff with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, or you'd been on tour with him, or
Yeah, we did a UK run with him in November, and we did, I think, 5 or 6 shows with him, and we've done a lot of stuff where we've either been on the same festival or the legendary Rhythm and Blues Cruise, where you get 20 bands and you're on a cruise ship for a week, and he's on there and he's playing after us and hanging out. And that was really special for me the first time, 4 or 5 years ago, getting to meet him as one of my heroes and one of my main influences in terms of blues music for me,
right.
And wanting to play blues and hearing that blues guitar and the sound. He was the reason that, really kind of pulled me into the blues music and seeing that younger generation and life in it. So we've done some shows with him, and he's always great, and his band is amazing, and hearing stories, especially with, his drummer, Chris Layton, who was obviously with Double Trouble and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
So he's got stories for days.
I bet.
And all those guys, they're just down to earth and, great people, nice people, and they just want to hang out and have a good time, you know.
Did you get an opportunity to jam with them at all, or?
Yeah, Kenny came out for one of the shows on the cruise and got up and jammed with us, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's cool.
He guested on Danielle's latest album.
Okay.
And they have a long history of knowing each other as well in the blues world. So, anytime we're close or anything, we try to touch base and see how he's doing and catch up. But yeah, we've done shows with him, and we did a string of shows with, George Thorogood a couple years ago, Buddy Guy, just all sorts of names that and like we did the Holland International Blues Festival last summer, and that was incredible. That was about, they said 10 to 12,000 people under a giant like circus tent.
Yeah.
And huge stage. And like we were the first band of the day. And then
Was that nerve-wracking?
it was very nerve-wracking because the lineup was amazing. After us, it was Curtis Salgado, which is legendary blues soul singer. And then Johnny Lang, Van Morrison, and ZZ Top for the day. And that was just the first day.
Yeah.
So that was special, and
I imagine you got to go out and watch all those guys after you guys were done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
It was crazy. So it's mind blowing to how quickly sometimes it's like I was just listening to these guys' albums at home and trying to learn the songs, and then fast forward a couple years and we joke about we were standing in the catering line backstage, and you turn around like you're getting whatever food you're getting, and you turn around and Billy Gibbons is like, "Hey, is the potato salad's pretty good?" And you're like, "Is this happening?
Yeah.
Like, this can't be real."
Right.
And so it's crazy to think about when I was 7, just wanting to play guitar and, not having any idea that playing guitar and my music could take me around the world.
Right.
Not only around the country, but to some of the most amazing places in the world and meet incredible people, whether it's the musicians and artists I look up to or the fans that are so dedicated to traveling and seeing every show and being there for every minute, and seeing the joy that it brings to them, and the troubles that they're going through at the time. It's what keeps us going and keeps pushing through.
So, Brandon, speaking of that, people coming to your show and seeing you multiple times and that kind of thing, as far as like a song that you feel really resonates with them, is there something you could share with us and play? Or did you have something else in mind? Or
No.
Are you taking requests?
Requests. We and I was gonna play a couple new tunes that we just finished up recording that'll be on our new album.
Oh, nice.
So we played them at the show last night, and we'll play them again tonight. But nobody's ever really heard them, so thought we'd bust them out here.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
That's
Let's
awesome.
do it, totally.
That's awesome. And we'll after you're done with that, we'll talk about the new album a little bit.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Sink or swim, nothing left to lose. You've got your mind made up now, and I've got mine too. It's hard to tell exactly when you're free, when your hands are tied down and your back's against the wall. Some are right where they want to be. They'll try to keep you down till you're 6 feet in the ground. But you know what's been killing me. It's your virtue and vice ain't worth the price. Leaving me here to fight for your crime. All that's left at the end of the day is your virtue and vice. Your virtue and vice. Look past the darkness that you hide inside. Run for the light to save your mind. It's your virtue and vice ain't worth the price of leaving me here to fight for your crime. All that's left at the end of the day is your virtue and vice. It's your virtue and vice ain't worth the price. Leaving me here to fight for your crime. All that's left at the end of the day is your virtue and vice. Your virtue and vice.
Yeah.
Yes. That is awesome.
Thank you. Something like that.
This is why I like doing this podcast, is because I get to like sit next to people who are just killing it in music, and it just excites me. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So what's that song called?
Virtue and Vice.
Virtue and Vice.
That will be the title track off the new album coming out.
And is this a Brandon Miller band album that you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're in the studio right now recording that, or?
Yeah, we finished all the tracking last week, laid down vocals this week, and just mixing it down and some final edits, and then we'll send it off for mastering and start promoting before long, and then this will be released. We're looking at towards the end of July for a release date on this.
Okay.
So,
And where'd you record it at?
Weights and Measures.
Okay.
Sound Lab here in Kansas City. Dwayne Trower is an incredible engineer, has a great ear, and just very solid at capturing, everybody's sound
Right.
for what it is. It's hard to get people on board that, just take what you're playing as an individual, what you're singing, the song, everything, and just putting a mic up and, making sure it's in the right spot, of course. But, it's just like capturing it as what it sounds like and not trying to change it or manipulate it into what they think you should sound like. He's like, no, this is what you sound like, so that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And all the instruments can breathe and there's air to them. And he's, great at that stuff, and really good guy, good person, and creative in that mindset too, where he feels free to give input, when it's needed and necessary. And he's been doing it a long time and has always done great work. He mixed down our live album, and so I wanted to go back and work with him some more, and it's been a great experience.
And your live album is from Knuckleheads, right? Is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really good. So it sounded really good.
We winged that one at the time. It was, a cold, supposed to be one of those Snowmageddon nights that we have in Kansas City in early January a few years back, and had just got some new recording equipment. I was like, let's just go record this show at Knuckleheads and see what happens. And I think it was like the day before I realized, being naive about it, I was like, I got this recording board and a MacBook, and that's all you need, and it just takes care of itself. And I guess it was like,
hit the space bar and go.
Yeah, it was like, well, I had a new MacBook, and it didn't have, like, the board was a FireWire output, and then the new Macs don't have the FireWire anymore. And
I think we ran into that issue a couple times here.
It wasn't FireWire though; it was a dongle.
It was a dongle. Yeah, the dongles.
He had the wrong
dongle completely screwed us.
He had the wrong dongle. Who shows up without his dongle?
And so it was like the day before, and I'm like, I gotta find this. So you go to the, this store and that store, and they don't have it. They don't have it, so you have to go to the Apple store, of course, and spend way too much money.
Right. Yeah.
But it all worked, and we took it to Dwayne and mixed it down. And it turned out great, and we felt that was the best representation of my sound and the band's sound that we had done up until that point, even with 2 studio albums before that. And it was nothing more than just putting a few mics up and letting the rest do the work. It's, if you have, good musicians and good instruments and everything, it should take care of itself.
Right.
And that's one thing, a lot of players are like, oh, well, I can buy a bunch of guitars, and they're only $500 guitars.
Sure.
And then I have a bunch, and it's cool. I have this in that color and that color and that shape and that size, but there's a reason why, these legendary instrument makers and amp makers, whether it's Gibson or Martin or Fender or any of them, it's like they've been around for a long time because they make really good stuff.
Yeah.
And it lasts a long time.
Right.
And it's expensive because it's good, and that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So Dwayne's been great at that. And we had a great time, and I hope we can work together more in the future with him.
So, just speaking of instruments, I'm going to get a little nerdy here because, I'm a guitar player too, so I got to go down that avenue.
It's a sad life sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, do I eat or buy this guitar? Tell me about some of the instruments that you got to play in the studio that kind of stood out to you, or
yeah, I've always been a little bit more of a Les Paul guy, just the big heavy guitars, humbuckers. So my main guitar for the last 10 or 11 years has just been my Gibson Gold Top Standard Les Paul. It's been with me at every show, here locally, around the country, around the world. That's the one that never, don't leave home without it.
Right.
That was the first Gibson I bought. I saved up for years for that thing. Bought it from a buddy of mine here in town that had a couple guitars, and at the end of the day, he was like, I've got a couple Les Pauls, and I don't really play out much, and, you know, so he had this one, which is about, I think it's a 2008 model. But he had two others, and one of the Les Pauls, he was a little more meaningful to him. It was a late 80s that he had for a long time. So he's like, oh, I'm thinking about selling the Gold Top. And I was like, sure,
Right.
I'll get it. So that's the one that I used mainly on the album. But I also had a 335 that I used quite a bit. Kind of a whole assortment of guitars. The 335, I had a Strat, a Tele. I used an Epiphone Wildcat on a couple songs, which has P90s and a Bigsby on it. That was one of those guitars. I'd always wanted to mess around with a Bigsby, and a couple years ago, I was like, well, I need a guitar with P90s, of course.
Sure.
And then I need a guitar with a Bigsby on it. So I happened to be on Craigslist, and this guy was like, oh, $200 for this Epiphone Wildcat, and it has P90s and a Bigsby. And I was like, it had mixed reviews online. You know,
Sure.
I was like, well, I've spent way more money on worse things.
Right.
So bought it, and it's worked out well since. So those, and this Gibson acoustic I used on the album as well. So those were kind of the guitars of choice. For guitar amps, I just used a twin reverb and a super reverb.
Just cranked.
Just cranked.
Yeah.
The twin I used, I've had that one for 15 or 16 years now. Just kind of ran that one dry, real loud and clean. And then
Shake the studio a little bit when you were there.
It was enough.
When you're on like 4.
Yeah. It was one of those, like, the drums are in a room, the bass is in a room, the guitar amps are in a room, and then I didn't even stand in the guitar room most of the time. And then the super I got is a 76 Silverface Super with the master volume. And it breaks up really nicely, and it's got a great reverb to it. So between both those amps, I was able to get a real good sound, and didn't use many pedals. Just kind of let the amps do the work, and occasional overdrive here and there, but but nothing too crazy.
Right.
When you get good tube amps, they're kind of the workhorse.
Yep.
And you just let them do the work.
Yeah.
So
It's
don't get complicated.
Don't get complicated.
It's worked for the last 60 years for everybody else. So why should I try to reinvent the wheel?
I always had a very simple setup when I played live, and it was basically I just left the pedals that I had on and just used my volume to get the sound that I wanted. But lately I've kind of gotten back into like trying out pedals and seeing what different sounds I can do. So it's kind of fun to do that. You have a different canvas, but for the longest time I was just like, if it gets too complicated for me, I can't concentrate on playing the guitar. And there's some people that are amazing at using effects the right way. I'm not one of those people, but it's just because I don't want to have to think about it. Like there's too much going on already. So
yeah, I mean, there was a time where I had a pedal board that was the size of this table. And it's like, I've got this effect for this one verse of this one song, and I got this pedal, and it's all cool. And then, it sounds great in your bedroom at home, and then you get to the gig, or it's like you're driving in the van, and everything's going like this in the back of the van, and a cable goes bad, or the power supply, or anything, and you have to try to dissect that at the gig, and it just got out of control. And now I'm the same way. It's like a small little board, I think four pedals and a tuner, and just using the volume and the tone on the guitar, and letting these things do the rest. And because I almost felt restricted, like playing, because I had to stay close to the board.
Right.
It's like I can't get too far away because I got to go back and I got to hit this pedal or that pedal, or I got to do this. And then now it's just like I can honestly do it without the pedal board if I need to, which is great. And having that freedom to to just play is what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of the way I felt as well. But I just have so much respect for people that know how to use effects the proper way, because I'm just in awe of like, oh, that's a new sound or a new way of thinking. And so it's almost like abstract painting with the instrument.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't understand it. My brain doesn't work that way. So speaking of playing, we should probably hear another song. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. This is another new one off the upcoming album that we will attempt to remember. This one's called Fire.
Haven't felt much like myself in such a long time. I need a search to find my way. I got a mountain to climb. Set fire to my fight and all the nights. Set fire. Light the match, turn out the light. No more time to save your life. Set fire. I feel like I'm dying. I've been engulfed in your flames. There's no way out tonight. I don't feel no shame. Set fire to my fight and all the nights. Set fire. Light the match, turn out the lights. No more time to save your life. Set fire. Live on to redeem my life. We suffer just to survive. In order to rise from the ashes, one must burn alive. Set fire to my fire and all the nights. Set fire. Light the match, turn out the light. No more time to save your life. Set fire. Light the match, turn out the light. No more time to save your life. Set fire.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yes. It's almost like he knows how to play guitar.
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
You know, one day I'll
What is that?
a couple more YouTube lessons. And I'll hopefully figure it out.
That's really funny because I think as guitar players, we're always like, not there yet.
Never there.
Not there yet.
And always on YouTube.
Yeah. And always on. The bad thing about YouTube is that you're always finding people coming up with the craziest stuff. And you're like, oh, I'm really not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You spend 3 years on some crazy, awesome looking picking technique only to find out that it was wrong the entire time.
Yeah. Or somebody has changed it completely and they're 5.
Yeah, they're so good. And you're just like, you know what? I'm going to go walk the dog instead.
Yeah. I'll throw this in the fire. It's fine. keep the fire going. So, Brandon Miller Band, and you also play with Danielle?
Yes, Danielle Nicole.
Okay. And what's the difference for you? Because you're more of a sideman with Danielle, right? Mm-hmm. So where do you feel more in your element? Or is it a mindset change for you to be able to do both things?
I'd say it's more of a mindset. Obviously I love to play my own music. But there's certain restrictions where it's like, first and foremost, I'm a guitarist. I'm a guitar player. I've always been a guitar player. I started to sing much later in my music career, so that's something that I feel I'm working on more as time goes on, is the singing aspect of things. Mm-hmm. So when I'm doing my own stuff, I'm singing half the time and only playing guitar half the time,
right?
Because there's only so much you can do. But then it's great to play with Danielle because she's amazingly talented, incredible vocalist, and performer, and I get to just sit back and play guitar. And it's still like the music. I love the music. The songs are great. And, we've started writing together as well. So, the creative input is there as well in that band.
She's a great bass player too, right?
Yeah, great bass player. So there's like pros to both. It's like, playing my own music, and it's a lot of guitar all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's not always for everybody. But then I get to go play with her, and I get to play... just play guitar and play different things that I wouldn't be able to because you're having to sing at the same time. I love to play slide guitar, but when you're singing, unless you're playing relatively basic stuff, like you can't, mute the strings and play slide and sing over the top of it.
Right.
And then with Danielle, she's singing, so I'm like, cool. I can do all this fun stuff that I never get to do on my own. So I've always thought in my current situation, doing my own stuff and playing with Danielle, I get the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. I always think about guys like Warren Haynes with Government Mule,
sure,
or Derek Trucks,
right,
where it's like, they get to do their own things and they're amazing, but then they get to go play with the Allman Brothers,
right?
Like,
yeah.
Oh, guys, I gotta take a break for a couple weeks. Gonna go play with the Allman Brothers. And put up with those guys for a little while.
No big thing.
So it's like they got, for a long time, they got the best of both worlds. I felt like with that, and you don't want to get burnt out doing the same thing night after night after night.
Sure.
So you get that different mindset and different approach.
Well, especially with close to 200 shows that you're out there playing.
Yeah.
Is that a majority of those are with Danielle or your own band? Or
I would say right now it's probably probably 60 to 70% with Danielle, and then my band is doing the rest, So the majority is with Danielle, but that's just like in between album cycles, obviously. Her last album was nominated for a Grammy, so we were pushing that real hard.
Oh, wow.
And then my band hadn't released anything. So then, looking forward later in the fall, my guys were going to be real busy. And before long, we'll be recording new music with Danielle as well. So it's just kind of like that ebb and flow and, figuring out scheduling, of course, the long-lasting issue of calendars between musicians. It never ends. So
because of that Grammy nomination, you got to go to a party, the Grammys.
Yes, yeah, we got to go to that, which was incredible, and there were so many emotions to that. I mean, it was exciting, and you were nervous because you're around some of the biggest and huge like artists and celebrities in the world.
Right.
And it was overwhelming. I mean, they're like, oh yeah, just, you walk down the red carpet. It's no big deal. you see it on TV and it looks like it's just like, oh yeah, we just got to walk 30 feet and that's
Right.
it. And we got dropped off and we come around the corner and they're like, yep, the red carpet entrance is right here. You get in there and it's like tent covered red carpet. It was raining that day. And it's, I don't know, at 150 yards maybe. But that's the red carpet and it's just lined with photographers and every news station. And you're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
You know, and
So we'll get to see some of your photos on Tiger Beat.
yes, of course. Only the finest. You know, so that was amazing. And then just like, yeah, we sat down. You know, the main ceremony at the Staples Center is at night, and that's what everybody watches on TV. And they don't give out that many awards, but the ceremony during the day is, I think it's live streamed now, but it's not on TV, and that's where they give out 90 to 95% of the awards.
Sure.
And so you got to see some incredible artists there, and then you go across the street to the Staples Center, and then you just see everybody. It was like we were sitting in the lower level, and then they have the floor seats, and it's starting to be showtime. And you've got, like, in the front row, you have Chris and Morgan Stapleton, and then Dolly Parton. So you have, like, some of the country people. And then on the other side, you had, you know, Questlove.
Right.
And Nicki Minaj. And, you know, Andra Day. And then, you know, Alicia Keys comes out, and she's the host. John Mayer stops by, says hi to everyone. Like Ricky Martin made a cameo, and you know, and then of course last year Brandi Carlile stole the entire show and was just out of this world. And just to be there was very surreal, and you're just like, wow, we're surrounded by the biggest names and celebrities in the world,
Right.
And they act like it's no big deal. They're just like, oh yeah, I saw so-and-so at the grocery store last week and said, hey, it's no big deal, you know, but it was very, you know, being starstruck at the time. But it was amazing.
I think I would not fare well around Alicia Keys. I'd probably get a little tongue-tied. I had a crush on her since her first albums.
You know, could be worse.
That's true. That's true. I've also had a crush on Questlove.
I don't blame you there either.
That's more of a musical crush, I think.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Only Jared knows. Only Jared knows.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tell. Now, that sounds really exciting. That's also one of those once in a lifetime, unless you win another Grammy. We shouldn't ever say once in a lifetime for some of these things, because it sounds like you're just out there killing it. I mean, playing all those shows, getting to travel to all these places that you never thought you'd be able to go. You know, getting to play with awesome musicians and being around other really talented musicians as well. It's just, it sounds like
It's special.
You're on a really awesome musical path, you know, and it all started when you were 7.
7. Yeah.
I should have started playing a lot earlier in life.
Then there's those of us that did start at 7 and are 51 and play to the equivalent of somebody that might be 8.
Who are you talking?
Me.
Who are you talking about?
Me. I've been playing.
Oh, you. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So
I've always said as long, you know, I get people that come up and they want to know what can I work on, or, you know, or they're like, I'm not that good, so I've thought about stopping playing. And it's like, it doesn't matter, you know, the talent level or how knowledgeable you are or anything. It's like, as long as you're playing and having a good time, even if it's just, you know, at home in the living room or around the campfire, whatever it is, it's like music brings people together, and that's what it's here for.
I totally get it.
If that's what it does, then that's all you need.
You're right. But there is that element that, you know, being around a person like you when you're playing and you know, and you've strived a while to make, you know, get better at it. It's just like a lot of times you just feel like throwing your stuff in the trash.
I meet people like that every day that will make me want to throw my guitar away.
Well, one of the big reasons that we're doing this podcast and we have the round table is kind of that sense of community. It's because, I went over to Ireland and played some music over there, and stopping in the pubs and just being able to sit down, and all of a sudden these musicians are super welcoming, and you get to sit down and start playing some of these Celtic tunes with them and learning some of those things that they have to offer. And seeing the musicians were just incredible. And they're just in these pubs sitting around having drinks and just BSing with each other. And every once in a while they'd break into tunes, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And it made me realize that, music as a whole, because we get so caught up sometimes, like next show and doing we forget that, music is that community thing. It's that thing that we can talk about and express, and we have conversations with our music. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I think what you're doing is really impressive. I love the albums. Hero's Mistake is probably, I've had that song on like repeat. Just killer solo, everything about it. Yeah.
That was probably a personal favorite off that album of mine as well. I was very proud of that one. So
I thought it might be, because just the solo, there's a lot of emotion in the solo, and there's just a lot of things going on, very complex and very impressive. I love that song. I just got tongue tied because I like that song so much.
You sure that's why?
It could be all this Questlove talk.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Something going on. Yeah. No, we're going to wrap it up, but I really appreciate you coming and sharing your experience, your journey, and the stories that you have from the road.
Thank you.
Sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
Can't complain.
So you have a show tonight. By the time this thing airs, you'll be done. But you can where can we find your shows at?
BrandonMillerKC.com is my website. It's the same, Brandon Miller KC on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, all the socials. Hopefully coming to a town near you very soon.
And with Danielle, does she have a website you can go to as well?
Yep. Hers is DanielleNicoleMusic.com. And I list all the shows that I'm playing with her on my website as well, and they're all linked together. So try to keep everybody up to date on where I'm playing and with whom I'm playing with as well. So
all right,
yeah, you got a nice little run. You're actually going through Midwest, and that looks like maybe even concluding somewhere down in Florida.
Yeah,
we've got post other dates through the end of March.
We had some time off in December and a little bit of time off in January to record, and now it's kicking back up again. So
nice, fantastic,
getting busy. So
we're going to see you on the road.
For having me, appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming by, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for playing for us too. So it was awesome.
Anytime.
Thank you.
What do you think?
I've been saying no place for thinking, man.
Well, this has been the RoundTable Jams. I've been your host, Jared Guth. Always with me is Larry Perez. Not always present, but always with me. And we've had Brandon Miller today, so go check him out online and catch a show, because that's really where you shine.
I try.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap.
All right, here we go.